Ladies and gentlemen, absolutely welcome. Gwen here. As you can no doubtly tell, I'm still at the same spot as the last few videos because I shoot them back to back whenever I can. And it's getting cold as a motherfucker, so I'm going to wear this jacket to try to keep some form of body warmth as I'm only eating one meal a day. And exercise is a bit at a minimum. Since, of course, you have to have a green pass or a QR code to be able to enter the gym, which fucking sucks monkey dick. But yeah, here we are nonetheless, freezing my gonads off, trying to deliver to you the story. You see, believe it or not, life is very simple. And it wasn't until I discovered voodoo where parts of my external spirituality got unlocked. You see, after you've done the inner journey, because you see, that's where Western people get a lot of things mixed up. They trying to get to the outer journey first, and then do the inner journey once they're 60 plus somewhat years old. Then they go on that inner journey. But by that time, it's already too late. Because, especially now, in the age where we're living in, you see, back in ancient times, the inner journey, whether it be the American Indian, or whether it be the South American or the African, all young men, especially, were sent on a quest. They were sent on a journey to find out who they are. What makes them a man? What makes them a part of the tribe? And as a man born half European and half Caribbean, I never felt part of any tribe. And since me being a traveler will mean that I will never belong to any tribe, because belonging to a particular tribe would mean having to compromise my vision, having to compromise my identity in order to fit within a very small spectrum of an ever-changing giant world, which even as a kid, I did my best to refuse to do. I was very keen on trying to develop my own sense of identity, because having your own personal, true, authentic self means that will separate you from the rest, in good and in bad. Of course, you're going to get a lot of people jealous on you, and a lot of people would want to wish you harm, or want to wish you bad. And I can tell you from personal experience, it goes very deep sometimes, even in people you would probably never thought would do you wrong. But having said that, once you get to that, your true authentic self, because my journey ultimately was to seek the truth, and to seek the truth was to heal my trauma. Because believe it or not, as a kid, I carried a lot of baggage, and I did whatever I could. You know, I went to therapists, I went to do spirituality, I went to church, I went to all that jazz. None of it was working. So my journey from the better part of my entire young adult life was going through that quest where back in ancient times they would send a lot of young men to go on that journey, because it was very imperative that if you want to be part of a society, what is your place in that society? If you're in part of a tribe, what is your place within that tribe? Where do you fit in that society? And a lot of people in this time, they're figuring out that the society they're born in is not the one they really belong. In my journey, I have met so many different people who didn't feel at all connected to the culture where they were born from. I remember, I'm not going to say her name, I'm just going to say Jenny. I've met Jenny, all right? She was a German girl living in, I forgot the name of the city, I can't help but wonder why, but I remember she came from a village, all right, which kind of reminded me of my island. It was very close-minded. They knew what they knew, and they didn't have interest in anything else. And strangely enough, and me having a connection with Asian culture a lot, and Japanese culture in particular, and her having that very much passion for South American culture, specifically Brazil. And yeah, well, I came to figure out as I got into my own spiritual journey and seeing things from different sides, and being a spiritually enlightened being, I could easily tell, like, hey, it would very well be that in your past life you might have been Brazilian, or you've had a giant part to play in what the essence of Brazil, the essence of that particular spot in the world would give you when it comes to energy, when it comes to love, when it comes to all of these frequencies that we're attached to. But yeah, coming through that journey, because I ended up, me being Caribbean, I have to embrace the part of African that in me, and of course, you cannot embrace your true. You look, anything in life, you can take the good without the bad. That's with everything. For example, in Christianity, all right, you believe in God, you believe in the devil. Not believe in the sense that you worship the devil, but you believe that where there is good, there is bad. And where the existence of good is the highest aim to strive for, knowing that bad is also there. And if you were to study Asian culture, and especially the yin-yang symbol, you will find out that evil isn't only there, but it's also necessary. To keep the equilibrium and to keep the balance of everything that is out there in the universe, alright, it is very essential to know that whatever you believe to be true, and even Carl Gustav Jung said this very prominently, is where whatever version of you believe yourself to be, alright, when it comes to your own sense of identity, the opposite part is also true, and that's called your dark side or your shadow side. That's why in spiritual life, when we try to cleanse out the bad part in order to maintain a state of high awareness, whereas you're continuously in the state of your higher self, while not necessarily keeping your lower self or your dark side at bay, but knowing that it exists, but you don't call onto it, you don't come to say hello, you just leave it where it needs to be. And it's usually within the lower states of your body or your consciousness, because but the reason I got into voodoo was I wanted to know more about that part of my culture. Not only that, after 2 years ago, that was pretty much before the pandemic got started, end of October 2019, I just lost my job, I just lost my house, I just lost everything, and I was homeless, essentially. I was living with my then girlfriend at the time. I was living at her house, and I knew I couldn't stay, because I had been subjected to so much disappointment, so much tragedy, so many mishaps, that I thought, like, look, if I don't make this journey right now, I'm gonna legit kill someone. Yes, my state of mind is in that state that if I don't go out, I'm going to kill someone, and I'm gonna find something justifiable within the current state of my mental equilibrium to justify pulling off this particular type of action. And since I want to prevent that, I said, you know what, I need to go on a journey. I grabbed my backpack, I went walking from Rotterdam all the way to Brussels, the French side. And that's pretty long. I'm talking 96 kilometers. I don't know the ratio between kilometers and miles. You're just going to have to calculate that and do something with that. But yeah, that was pretty much my entire journey. Now, I had completed my inner journey at this time, but it wasn't until I met my other girlfriend, ex-girlfriend at the time. And by the way, that relationship didn't last all too long, and but it got very spiritually enlightenment really quick. Whether I knew the inner form of spirituality, she was very aware about the outer form of spirituality. Because whether you have the internal, you also have the external. And she, in a very short time, with a lot of rituals, a lot of sex, and a lot of conversing, a lot of drinking, a little bit of smoking here and there. I don't do any of these things too often, but when called for spiritual rituals or any that I might indulge, and because I did figure out through her that a lot of Caribbean men, if not all Caribbean men, have have the knowledge in their DNA of Samedi, or Baron Samedi. And Samedi is the Loa, or the god of the dead. Picture a Caribbean version of Anubis, if you will. And it was strange because we were dancing to this tribal African music, and she did her thing, I did my thing, and while I was in that state of trance, I'm seeing visions. I'm seeing visions of all the times we met before, and even when engaging in certain activity, I would see visions of all the times we met before. I saw Greece. I saw a Native American tribe. I saw all this. And remind you, this is no ayahuasca, this is no LSD, this is just purely interacting, our energies combining together, in the physical, and mentally connecting and spiritually connecting on a very high level. So that's why I advise a lot of young people that, look, we all want to live that YOLO life, and having sex with a lot of different people seems great on the surface, and I'm not counting that out, that hey, live your life, but know that if you have no self-knowledge about who you are, and if you don't have that awareness of what energy does, and especially nowadays, it is very important for you to realize that if you're not in the right energy, and if you don't know if she's in the right energy, be careful, because you might be subconsciously taking in a lot of energies that a lot of people, and especially in Western societies, it's very common that they like to hide that shit. They don't like to tell you everything. That's why I'm telling you, a lot of Western, look, it don't matter where you're from, but if you're dating a Western man or woman, be sure you know the whole scoop, because a lot of the motherfuckers are just dishonest. And I can give you an example, not even the one I'm currently with now, but even other times before, where I remember having an interaction when I was about 22, and I remember having a one-night stand, and next thing you know, I'm waking up with a lot of anxiety. I'm anxious fuck. And that lasted, because I'm an empath too, because when you're an empath, energy of others tend to stick around you, even sometimes without you knowing it. So that energy stuck around for a good 3 months, and I was going through a burnout, I was going through depression, I was overworked, so I had all that at once. So I didn't know where to place it at the time until it was too late. And but coming back to how I got engaged in voodoo, ultimately, the girl I was with back then, she didn't want to let me go. Very jealous individual. Whether, as me, I'm the least jealous person. And that's you see a lot with a lot of relationships, and which is why a lot of relationships nowadays tend to fail, is because it's not based on love. It's based about control. It's based about controlling the other. It's about limiting the other. Like, you're not going anywhere unless I tell you, unless you. And that's not how I operate at all. I'm the type of person. Look, if you wanna stick around, fine. If you don't want to stick around, that's good too. A lot of I don't know. Look, I can't speak for everyone, but a lot of people nowadays, they go like, if I'm with my girl and she's not doing it for a job, she can't have Instagram, or she can't have Instagram on her phone, or she can't do this on her phone. I'm like, I cannot speak for women who think like this, but I can tell you for a man, like, if that's the type of mindset you have to get in with someone when entering a relationship, just don't be in a relationship. Trust me, that is just a lot of extra headache, because I tell you, if there's no trust in the relationship, then there is no relationship. You can, that's a lot of Western people do. They just say they love you, all right? You can say that shit as much as you want. There's no action if there's no trust behind it, because trust is the affirmation of love. You don't have love without trust. And if you can't trust each other, then you might as well leave each other alone. But this particular girl did not want to leave me alone. And so that stemmed her trying to hex me, trying to do a lot of the ritual stuff, because apparently I'm not putting her shit out there. That's why I'm keeping her name anonymous. But she had some problems with her ex, and she tried to confront me to try and give closure about actually the closure she needed to get from her ex. But because she refused to confront that what happened to her on the inside, she needed outside validation, and she used a lot of hexes, a lot of spells, and a lot of dark magic in order to have that happen. And we already had a soul contract at that time. For those of you who what a soul contract is, it's kind of like a marriage certificate, if you will, but it's like a spiritual marriage certificate. So I was like spiritually married to her, and when trying to separate, we had to separate, but we just couldn't. Evidently, we were so bonded that even I couldn't let her go subconsciously. So the only way to be able to successfully do that was to perform my own voodoo ritual. And I did a lot of shit. I can tell you, I spent 6 weeks in the desert, just sweating out all the memory, because believe it or not, humans were made of 86% water. Your memory is water, your trauma is water, so all that memory is just washing away, just sweating that out. You know, you can do saunas and all well, but yeah, I was in the desert. Where are you going to find a sauna in the desert? So, yeah. And, yeah, that's when I had to, access my own DNA, and believe it or not, there's a lot of hidden knowledge in your DNA about ancient methods and ancient tactics. And a lot of, believe it or not, once you get through that inner journey and you come in contact with your ancestors, there's a lot of knowledge that is in there that you really have to be careful, because I did a smaller video on my YouTube channel. By the way, please like, share, subscribe, do all that jazz. But there was a part where I did a smaller YouTube video where, and I even read an article about this, why Hitler was obsessed with the paranormal, and why Carl Gustav Jung also said that Hitler, when looking at him, didn't seem like one man, he seemed like an entire nation. He had reached the state where he had unlocked all his past lives within his DNA. That's what happened to, because that's what happened to me. You had unlocked all the ancestors within your DNA, because I figured out until then, I didn't know this is life number 257. And before this, my past life was an Asian woman who lived through World War I, who was highly abused also in a sexual matter. And I'm not going to tell her story right now, but that'll be another video altogether. But having said that, however, it was very interesting that I had successfully ripped our connection apart. Again, for those of you who don't know the story, that Samedi had a wife. Wife was a Scottish red-headed woman named Brigitte, and she had the essence of Brigitte in her. I had the essence of Samedi, and we. But this could not go on. She had too much baggage for me to carry, and therefore I did the ritual to rip that connection from her apart. But not only did I rip our connection, I ripped the connection. I ripped Brigitte out of her system. And it's not taking a soul, it's taking a part of a memory of someone. And by the way, this is the type of magic you should be very careful of using, because what happened to me afterwards was, to be honest, I'm so glad I'm still alive to be able to tell you this story, because apparently I didn't know until later that the ritual I was performing required a replacement. And if you are not able to find a suitable replacement, the consequences are very severe. And that got my legs crushed into a steel car crusher. 600 kilograms worth of pressure on my legs. And that's why I'm still walking around with metal pins to this day. Everything is fine now. I can still walk. Running is a bit of a no-no, and walking up a stairs is much easier than going down. Other than that, though, I feel fine. I feel very blessed. And but I told you a lot of stories in once, but that's low-key how I got into voodoo altogether. And there's a lot more context to the story, and believe it or not, there are going to be small parts, but I just give you like the general of it, because a lot of people have a lot of misconceptions about voodoo. It's considered dark magic, and a lot of people, we say, like, yeah, it's dark magic, it's evil. That's like saying money is evil. Money by itself is not evil. Voodoo by itself is not evil. It is with what intent are you using it that makes it good or bad. And ultimately, I didn't follow through with the ritual because, if I found even if I did find a suitable replacement, I would be no better off than what she tried to do to me. And I always said to be beyond such things. I always said I never want to control anyone. I never want to manipulate anyone into being with me. If they want to be with me, let it be out of their own free will. And if not, so be it. But I'm not going down that route because, as the American Indian always said, there are certain rules within natural law, that there are certain things as an individual that you just do not do, for the universal law has consequences that are severe. And apparently we have forgotten these rules, otherwise we wouldn't be here in the situation where we find ourselves in today. So, having said that, to each their own. Getting another peanut. Yeah. Oh. Even Christopher Lee, for those of you who do not know, he played Saruman in Lord of the Rings. He had a lot of interesting interviews on the occult, and look, I've had a pretty hectic life when it comes to trying to find an identity. I was a metalhead at one point. I was raised Catholic. Later on became an atheist. Then had some spiritual stuff happen to me that made me turn into agnost. And I really didn't start to find proper spirituality until I was around 25, 26-ish. And finding out what really resonated with me, finding out what really motivated me to continue. Because, believe it or not, I struggled so much with this life in the past that it was really hard to figure out, like, where do we fit in. Because we're all told to seek meaning, or our life will be meaningless. And especially in this society, you get pressured into doing things a certain way, and if you deviate from that, you're labeled a whole bunch of things that you don't want to be labeled as. And having said that, eating our peanut again. It is very imperative that you know yourself, know your roots, know where you come from, and know who you are within this spectrum of your existence. Because even now, this world will try to... I've done a lot of fucked up shit. I did a lot of things I didn't want to do in my past, and they all had a point of origin. For those of you who don't know my YouTube channel, I found out through voodoo, actually, that I was sexually assaulted by my father and 3 other men when I was 3, and that happened until I was 6 years old. And he spent his entire life covering it up. And I knew deep down, I always knew there was something wrong. So, I thank voodoo for helping me make that journey a lot faster. Because and I thank my ex-girlfriend Jessica for it as well. Because had I not met her, who knows how long it would have taken me until I figured out. How many years would I have wasted if not finding out the truth about my about everything? Because honestly, when I did the voodoo ritual and I found out what happened, like, it wasn't even as much as a shock. I didn't cry. I wasn't sad. It was like a revelation. because up until then I understood everything that hadn't worked out at that particular moment in time for a reason. Like everything made sense. Everything from then on, from back then up until the moment now, made absolutely a lot of sense. So the revelation was astounding, to say the least, and I'm very happy. I got to discover that now, and sorry that I didn't have to discover that later in my life, where all hope and time might be lost. And I still have some doubts, not a lot of fears, but because I had to reflect a bit, and it's like, wow, I've been through a lot of shit, and it all made me a better man for it. So I have nothing but gratitude, for everything that happened, and especially now, it's been a great trip, and I know there are many more to go. And believe me, in this crazy world, well, that's even before I start traveling. Like, some people never find that wisdom. Some people never, yeah, I'm so beyond blessed. I'm telling you all these stories, and I don't visualize them as much as I did in the past, is because I've already worked out all the kinks for myself. There are a lot of chapters in my book that I have closed, and when you've looked at your past from every possible angle, especially if you had a traumatic past, like you look at every possible angle. You've done everything you possibly could. You've done everything right. You try to make amends, and just like toxic individuals just won't adapt, and you decide to let go. It's like, look, there's no greater satisfaction than knowing you've done everything you possibly could, and you're still here, still smiling, and still finding ways to make positive movement and positive growth. And that is something that, look, no matter what measure of success you have, no matter what type of money or what type of life you wish to have or you wish to live, it's do it in gratitude, is what I can say. And that will make everything in life so much more enjoyable. I've had a pleasure even recently. Like, I finally feel like my life's just getting started, and this is definitely not the end. There's a lot more in this journey I have to share with you, and there's a lot more to create. So we're gonna do all of that, and yeah, again, you know what? Like, share, subscribe, do all that jazz, and I'm very grateful for all of you. All my close friends, some I had to leave behind. You'll always be there. At one point you meant a lot to me, but we all grow, and sometimes we grow apart, and sometimes we grow different, and sometimes things are not meant to stay the same. I've learned that accurately, and I'm grateful for what the rest of this journey is going to be made of. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be it for tonight, and I'm going to be making a lot more, but for now, we're just going to leave it at that. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been great. I thank you all so much, and I can't wait to see you all next time. So have a good day, and as always, namaste, everyone. Bye. Have a good night.